Hello and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and I'm joined as always by racing broadcaster and journalist Paul Auster and Jack Milner from Quiff. And today we're going to be taking a review of the Cheltenham Festival 2026, the highs, the lows, the dramas. We're going to be taking a look into it all. Guys, if we start off with a little bit of an overview of the week and just generally, how did the week go for you, Jack? We'll come to you first.
Am I wearing my bookmaker hat on or my punter hat on?
You can give us both.
I can wear both hats. Yeah, it was disastrous for me personally. I think Elete Tomps aside, couple of big places, the Bombhead horse in the Albert Bartlett. I can't think of anything else where you think I banked the horse that does really well at Air. The name escapes me. Not Air, Kelso in the County Hurdle at a big price. Cracking
Rhapsody.
Cracking Rhapsody, yeah, that ran really well. I think he probably goes to Air next and will run well Scottish National Day. But yeah, that side again, you presume you look at the results in almost isolation. Well back favourite for the Champion Hurdle, second favourite win the Champion Chase, well back to Austin Gaelic Warrior winning the Gold Cup, well backed favourite winning the Supreme. If you take those isolation, it should be a good week for punters. But again, I'm telling you, Quiff had their best ever week on record, and I don't think we were isolated in that from a bookmaking perspective. You listen to the stories in the betting ring, and you got people on course saying this is the best results I've had literally in decades. So I think it was the inconsistency, and again they toyed around the ground. It was supposed to be a little bit on the side of good, probably a little bit quick the first couple of days, and the fact you had both Willie Mullins and JP McManus come out and they didn't really complain about it. They said they'd have to, rethink horses coming here, and I don't think I've ever heard JP moan about anything in my following racing in 20, 25 years. Willie Mullins is always very, very diplomatic, and to hear the two of them, um, just question the going and question, the environment. It was interesting, but yeah, me bad, but with my PR hat on, very, very good. So roll on next year.
And what about you, Paul?
Well, yes, talking about passing hats round and things like that, and food parcels will probably be coming my way shortly because I speak on behalf of most punters, I think, or certainly nearly most of those that I know, who nearly went skint over Cheltenham. It was a very, very tough Cheltenham. I've never known anything quite like it. But of course, that's the way it goes. I mean, the most sickening sight, of course, or sound in some cases, is to hear the likes of Jack and his mob, all saying what a wonderful time they've had at our expense. But it's only Lent, as we say. It's only Lent. It's only until the next time, and I'm sure we'll come bouncing back. But finding winners was very, very difficult. We're going to come on, I'm sure, to some of the outstanding performances. I would also expect that we will discuss the starts because I think they marred the meeting to a great extent. And I think, as Jack said, when you hear JP McManus having a moan, and this is a guy that very rarely says a wrong word about anybody or anything, that maybe not everything was quite as it should have been. Overall, I'm sure a lot of people had a wonderful experience at Cheltenham. The racing, the finishes were tremendous, but the results were, well, certainly for me, dire.
Yeah, I think it was quite hard to find a winner out in the wild, that's for sure. I had a couple, but not enough really for what you would want to have to say you've had a great Cheltenham Festival, that's for sure. I'm sure we'll come across some of the starts for a few of the races, but let's start by taking a look ahead at the highlights to day one. So we started the day off, I mean, as punters generally, quite well, Jack. I think we all thought we had you bookies on the absolute ropes with Old Park Star in the first. I personally was really impressed with Old Park Star. I think we've had confirmation now that he will go chasing next season. But in general, I did think that my Daddy Paddy was unlucky, took a little bump, and that really seemed to slow his momentum. But what a run from Sober Glory, though, all the way. Like, really, really impressed by Sober Glory's run in that race. But Old Park Star, the star, did you guys have Old Park Star? I mean, you must have been quaking a little bit there, Jack.
Yeah, yeah, very well backed as well. I think he was he drifted out in the morning 5-2, 11-4. It's one of those where you want to take on the favourite in the curtain raiser because it kind of sets the tone ideally for the rest of the week. And there was never really. I'm kind of very critical of Nico. We'll come to him later, I'm sure. um,
Had to
it,
come.
it looked a pretty straightforward right. He's ended up being on the edge of the leader. He's more or less kicked at the last, and he's squeezed out again. I think I put up and backed My Daddy Paddy beforehand, and I don't know that Nico got a few days for it. I think My Daddy Paddy was very unlucky, and that would be the one for me if they were to reoppose back at Aintree. I'd be all over the Skelton horse. Well, I know you'll bring this up later. Is it what a week for Dan and Harry Skelton? It looked like after the first, it was potentially curtains for them, but yeah, no real dangers for favourite backers in the opener.
No, no real dangers there. If we take a look at the 2 o'clock, this was a bit more of a surprising result. You had Cargizi finished SP 7-1. Kopek, De Boards and Lulamba all but threw their races away, really, didn't they, Paul? Because that's what it felt like when you watched, especially watching the side on. I don't know if you've seen it, but you just see that they've both got a great chance, and then one falls away, then the other falls away.
Old adage, jumping's the name of the game. And Cargazy just jumped beautifully. I mean, she really jumped terrifically well. If either of the other two had put in a clear round, it would have at the very least been close with her. Yeah, I personally think probably Kopek would have won if he jumped the last properly, but it wasn't to be. But you can be as fast as you like between the fences, but if you don't jump them properly, it's a waste of time. And all credit to the man. I thought she was terrific, really. I love the way she really battled on up the hill. I thought it was a great effort.
And what a ride by Danny Mullins as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely fantastic on her.
he's
He's
tremendous.
different class, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice ride. He did exactly what you said, Paul, just made sure that he got the fences right, and that made all the difference in the Arkle. And to some extent, I think we knew it would, because obviously these are those younger chasers. But before we get to the big race of the day, I feel like I do need to mention that I felt absolutely heartbroken for Jaguar. Oh my gosh. I know Johnny, who's a horse that runs on, and he can often get beat by a short distance, but gosh, Jaguar just hit every single fence and was still running on. And to be honest with you, he's a horse that I felt wasn't going to stay. I really liked him for the Sun Racing Plate. I really fancied him for that, just over that slightly shorter distance. So I was a bit gutted when he was going in the Ultima, but I've got to eat my words. I mean, Jaguar did stay, and he stayed really nicely. I was still just heartbroken for him. What did you guys make of that race?
Well, first of all, about Jaguar, he's a horse. I don't know if he's in any of the long distance chases, but it wouldn't surprise me if one day he gets it right in one of the long distance chases, because he certainly has got plenty of stamina. And it kind of reminded me, if he went for a national or something like that. There was a horse that won the national back in the day, whose name has just gone out of my head, owned by the Duchess of Westminster. Hewell Davis rode it. Last Suspect it was. It was a 50-1 shot, and it wasn't a very good jumper. But when it came to going to Aintree, the horse in those days, there were bigger fences. That Hewell Davis said afterwards, the horse was so frightened of the fences he didn't dare touch them. So he absolutely flew over them all and came home with his whirlwind finish to win. Wouldn't surprise me if Jaguar could do that. But I do want to mention a horse from that race, because there's a horse that I think could be a national horse for this year, and that's Imperial Saint. Because Imperial Saint was stopped in his tracks by a faller fairly early on in the race. I thought he might pull up. Of course, he was one of my selections, so of course he had a nightmare. But he made a lot of ground and stayed on into eighth, and I'm convinced that if he hadn't have been stopped to a walk, he would have gone very close. And he also likes decent ground, which we're likely to have at Aintree. So I think Imperial Saint is one definitely to consider with a view to Liverpool.
Do you guys think that Jaguar will go for the national now? Because he does have an entry. He has we has got to wait. And I'm just thinking, I suppose it would depends how hard of a race he has had in the Ultima.
He has to run, doesn't he? He'll be at least a few pounds well in. It's a really closing race. You imagine he goes, any horses that do well in the autumn end up getting hit by the handicapper. So, given his connections, you'd be very surprised. Another horse that ran well, I was all over. I can't pronounce the name. The McNeil horse, Quebec,
Quebecois.
Quebecois,
Quebecois, yeah.
Quebecois, much better pronounced by Paul than myself. I thought Harry Cobden gave that a brilliant ride. He saved every inch. He jumped really well. But you just when you see horses like that run that well and still get beat, he's probably going to go up a couple of pounds as well. Is it a case of that's his level? I could see him. I thought he jumped fantastic. I'd love to see him with something like the Topham over 2.5. So I just don't think he stayed 3.25. But yeah, Jaguar, they have to go to Aintree, surely.
Yeah, I would like to think so. I'd be interested. I think I'd probably be on, to be honest, because I
I
was
imagine
really
so.
taken with his staying performance personally. That's if I can dare to part with my anti-post bet on Mr. Van Gogh. Hopefully he's recovering, because obviously he had a little injury, a little setback. So whether we see him in the national kind of remains to be seen. But speaking about the big race, we do still need to take a look at the champion hurdle on day one. Wasn't as dramatic as last year's, obviously. The build up definitely was. Obviously, no Sergino, no Constitution Hill, no State Man. But we did have Lossiemouth. I feel like common sense prevailed and she did take her place, and she was so impressive. And in my head, I feel like it resolved an unresolved melody that I basically had, that was, I felt that she was going to win it this year. I felt that if she was in the race, she would have won it last year. And I was just so impressed with her. She's probably one of my favourite horses in training. I think the New Lions run was meh. We kind of knew his run wasn't going to, like, I felt we all kind of knew that his run wasn't going to be that great. Like, he struggled to get home against Brentford Hope. I thought that for such a young horse, Alexei ran well. I was impressed with his kind of run, and I think it was perhaps just a little bit too hot for him, but certainly quite impressive. And one that was a bit disappointing, and there was a couple of these with Mullins around the place, was Poneros. I did think he was going to give a better showing than he did, which was
You're
which
kicking him
was
while he's down now,
annoying.
aren't you? This is just rubbing salt in the wound to Paul here.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. But I fancied Poneros too, to a degree. I
Me too.
just thought Poneros might run into like second, because I was a Lossie fan all the way. But I just thought that Poneros was going to run better than he did. I thought he had maybe the speed to run a little bit better than he did, and he didn't really show that, especially on that ground that was clearly the better ground on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. Obviously, Brighter Days Ahead, she ran her race, but kind of solidified what I felt, which is that she isn't as good as Lossiemouth. I think that was just a bad day for Lossie at the DRF, personally.
Would you say, Izzy, and sorry, Jim, this was probably the worst champion hurdle. I mean, Onace won last year, but that was, again, she benefited by two very, very highly rated
Yeah.
horses, four coming down. Lossiemouth rated 159, really slow time comparative. When you factor in the ground, she's done it in 354. Annie Power, 10 years earlier, won the champion in those famous strokes in 345, 9.5 seconds quicker than her stablemate. Is it just a case of Lossiemouth is the best of a bad crop at present, or and she's been very well placed to win where she has, or is she still relatively underrated, do you think?
I think that, look, I love her. I just love her as a horse. I thought that she could take advantage of what is a was a poor champion hurdle. It's not a vintage renewal. It's not one we're all going to go back and watch. She was in here against horses that she'd beaten before, horses that I think we mentioned when we previewed the race. This is one of the lowest rated favourites at the time with the New Lion. It's not a great race. It wasn't a great race. I just love Lossiemouth, so I'm pleased for my own kind of selfish reasons. But yeah, it's not great for racing. But I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen, did we? And I guess no one did, when you've got the likes of Sergino, State Man and Constitution Hill all not taking their place. I mean, had they all three of them been in it, it'd have been gosh, one hell of a race.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I would say actually is that, first of all, I've never been a huge Lossiemouth fan. You know, I think she's a very, very good horse, but it never one that I wanted to back. But I was very, very impressed with what she did. You know, the race that was set up for her and the way she put the race to bed, I thought that was really impressive. Of course, I had one eye on her and the other eye like this, watching Poneros struggling to raise a gallop, which really did shock me. But one thing I would say, I think seeing the first two home there, and looking at the fact that I think it's 5 of the last 10 champion hurdles have been won by mares, it's time to get rid of this Grade One mares hurdle, isn't it? You know, get rid of it and have them running in the one race. You know, Flaky Dove, Dawn
100%.
Run, Epidant, all these good mares have done it and shown it can be done. And
Annie
just
Power,
Annie
Honeysuckle.
Power, of course, yeah,
Honeysuckle,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, honeysuckles. So I mean, it just I'm not happy with this dilution. I understand that the breeders are probably quite keen on it because you get Grade One
Black tie, yeah.
black type for your mare, but I think it's about time we went back to where we were to see all the best horses in what is the championship race and let the best man or woman win. Um, and I, I just think that's something that they should very seriously think about. Although, for whatever reason, I don't see that happening. You know,
Or,
certainly next year.
or at least, Paul, you turn, because the mares is a pretty uncompetitive
Yeah,
race the last 12, everything ever since I can remember, right? Quivega, 25 in a row. Make it a mares handicap, 2.5. Make it a listed handicap, or a bit like what they did with. I mean, I used to love the old Clarence House chase when it was a handicap. So you've got good horses trying to give away lumps of weight. At least it's competitive rather than an odds-on favourite invariably dotting up every year with very little
yes,
fanfare. But
absolutely.
I'm with you. Get rid of it as in its
Yeah.
current
I mean,
incarnation.
all credit to Wadhu, who I thought she did very well once again. She's a very, very likable mare, but I would like to have seen her get in there and get stuck in the champion hurdle. But anyway,
No, I do agree. I think we need to move away from the dilution, that's for sure. But we still have day two to look at next. And it was all drama in this race where we started with the Turners. The eventual winner here was King Rasco Gray after his sort of run at the DRF, where he finished in third to Talk the Talk and Bally Fad. So he'd obviously come on for that run. Interestingly enough, I mentioned the Willie Mullins Stable Tour YouTube video that I'd watched loads in the preview, and in that video he mentions that King Rasco Gray will come on for the run. He was absolutely flabbergasted with the odds. He thought he was going to be, I think his phrasing was 2 or 3 to 1 max. He thought King Rasco Gray would be. So that's a telling sign, if anything, and we should be always listening to Willie Mullins when he speaks. But in this race, it was all kind of all the drama felt like it was happening away from the eventual winner, because you had Active Innocence in second, partnered by Nico de Boinville. And down at the start, there was basically a load of beef between him and Declan Queally. So they interviewed the jockeys after the race, and obviously Declan made his comments about having been abused by Nico. Then Nico came back with telling the commentator at the time that Declan ought to look in the mirror. And then the day later, we saw that they'd shook hands and made up. I mean, what do you guys make of that? I personally think that it's just reading too much into what it probably happens down at the starts most days. I would say definitely during the Cheltenham Festival, adrenaline is running really high. And at the end of the day, this is a really high pressured professional sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens a bit like you said. It probably happens at every race meeting to some degree or another. A bit like if you hear cricketers play on a field or footballers, you'll hear sledging or whatever. The difference is it's a Cheltenham Festival. He's an amateur jockey, and I mean, you can take it. The fact his wife and kids were there is irrelevant. But if he said something which is, I mean, he claims he was almost like racist abuse. I don't know what was said. It's a very, because if it's St Patrick's Day, right? There's always that rivalry. My missus is Irish. Our boys are both dual passports. Irish in general don't like anything from us English people, let alone when they're getting kind of pelters down at the start. So yeah, I'm sure it's kind of like, all amped up, adrenaline's going, but nothing. They apologise, move on. Again, Nico had an indifferent week. I thought he got it wrong on Lulamba. He jumps the second last and he wins. Maybe he's feeling a little bit under pressure, but I mean, I thought the Quilios ran really well. He gave it a good ride
Yeah.
to finish fifth in the end. But it's
What
interesting you mentioned King Grasco Gray. He was rated 146 going into the race. He was the second highest scored race in the field, and he's won like a good thing. It's, as you say, Izzy, listen to Willie Mullins and ignore him at your peril, because very impressive on the day. I think that's the main talking point. We can move on from the other thing, but I'll let Paul chime in.
Well, I'd just say very briefly, I agree with most of what you said. The one thing I would say is that, and it's been pointed out by a number of jockeys and anybody that's watched racing long enough, is that they don't run in lanes. You don't get your lane allotted by the committee before you start. So whoever gets to the rail first, they're the ones that go there. It doesn't matter if you're an amateur jockey or a seasoned professional. And I'm not one of those people that is particularly enamoured either way of Nico de Boinville. I think he kind of sends himself up a lot with his comments, but I just think he was in the wrong with expecting not, somebody to move over for him. You don't do that. And it was the most half-hearted making up, shaking hands, through gritted teeth with steam coming out their ears. I thought that was a waste of time, frankly. But anyway, like you say, we move on. I would just mention that out of that race, and I've written it down here somewhere, a very, very eye-catching run from the third and fourth horses. Joseph O'Brien's runner Zeus Power and the Skelton horse at silly odds came absolutely flying up the hill. Soldier Reeves. They're two horses that I think are interesting to bear in mind for the future. Soldier Reeves in particular, if he goes through for a decent 3-mile novice hurdle. Interesting horse.
Speaking of that race, Paul, sorry to jump in again. What did you make of the favourite? We were all fancied the World's End, and I wouldn't say he ran a shocker, but he was in a pole position, and he was never ever going to win the race, effectively, was he?
Well, of course, No Drama This End for my clients was a very, very, very rare win bet. I think it was No Drama This End, that race, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I called him
it
the
was
World's End. It's a different horse.
like we were all aligned, guys, and it went so badly
It
wrong.
was the
We
World's
were
End.
all together.
Yeah, I mean, the horse clearly was inconvenienced by the start. There's no doubt about that. He was out of his ground. And Harry Cobden just had one of those nightmares. He held his hand up. Every time he tried to improve his position, something happened in front of him, and in the end, there was no point. So save the horse for another day. But that was just, whether the horse would have been good enough anyway, I don't know. We'll never know.
Yes, I know that it was Ruby Walsh actually commented on Harry's ride and said, well, you can ride to win or you can ride to place, and it was clear that Harry had tried to win. He tried to stick to that inside rail. He was going to try and come kind of up there. I think Ruby mentioned, like, you could pull the horse wide and you could have taken him 7 or 8 ride and tried to come round the field, and you would have finished 5th or 6th at best, but you wouldn't have won with that ride. So I feel like Harry was kind of damned if he did and damned if he didn't, really, with what happened on No Drama This End. And it does bring us to talking a little bit about the starts, because with that one there in particular scuppered a lot of people's bets, and there were quite a few more across the week. What can we do about these starts? I mean, to me, one of the most obvious things to do would be to make sure that we don't have a start on a bend, because I do think that obviously means they end up picking up quite a bit of speed. So maybe just realign the starts.
Yeah, I think actually, and I've written about this on our website at the Horse Racing Network. Just yesterday, I posted something, and very much on those lines, Izzy. To start the race on the bend, everybody's aware of the fact that the horses on the outside will be moving quicker, to make the line. It only makes sense to take the start back. They should maybe for those the 2-miler races where they were struggling, to just start with their backs to the second last hurdle instead of on the bend, so they've got more time to get into some sort of an order. And I don't think the tradition of having a particular race distance to the yard is going to be any great change if you extended 100, 150 yards or whatever. As we've seen with the Grand National, that used to be 4.5 miles. It's now 4.25. It doesn't make it any less of a race. So, yeah, I think there needs to be something done there because it was a shambles. There's one horse I'll just draw your attention to, a horse that ran on the Thursday. That, of course, was a selection of mine. So I was watching it closely as it was completely inconvenienced by the start. A horse called Full of Life, trained by Henry de Bromhead, who is a horse that has to lead. And it was literally left out in the cold and had to be rushed up to get to the lead by the second flight. Used a lot of energy. Quite how it managed to still be in the lead, coming round the home turn and going for the line, I don't know. But another one that I think really one to follow, a horse badly inconvenienced by the start. If it had jumped off on terms, it might have gone very close.
We also had on Wednesday the Champion Chase. Before that, we had Harry Cobden versus Paul Townend. It was a battle I quite enjoyed watching. Kitzbühel getting the better of Final Demand. That one shocked Willie Mullins. He said that he was absolutely certain that Final Demand would have picked Kitzbühel up. Is this more of what we've got to come from Harry Cobden when he gets these good rides? I mean, when it's one of the best bets for Cheltenham Festival 2027, Harry Cobden to be top jockey.
Jack, take that one.
If you can get into the mind of Frank Berry and know which one if he's on the right one, yeah, you saw Johnny Who get the better of Jaguar in the Ultima, right? He'll get a lot of very good rides. The thing is, Paul Townend. This past week was the best, I think. As a festival, I think it's the best I've seen him ride. Confidence, class, the way he he got the fractions right. Whether he's leading, whether he's coming from behind. This week for me was the one where I've kind of gone, oh, okay, he's the real. I've always been a little bit kind of not suspicious, but Ruby for me. We've grown up in an era where you've seen Ruby Walsh, AP McCoy, Barry Garrett. I always love Paul Carberry, Timmy Murphy, those types of jockeys. Townend now kind of looks in that ilk of top class, is yet to be really unflustered. Harry's got a long way to go. I think Paul Town is now ridden. Is it 50 Cheltenham winners? It's something ridiculous. Yeah, Townend for me still daddy.
I would just add there, Izzy. I thought Harry Cobden was brilliant, absolutely brilliant on that horse. I'd also say that I do think he's an absolutely top-notch jockey, and I think the appointment for JP McManus is going to work really well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very smart lad. He's got his head screwed on the right way, and I expect him to do very well in that particular job. But with what Jack said about Paul Townend, again, I referred to this in my article on the website. Townend was marvelous. Even when he didn't win, there were, reasonable, good reasons why not. Normally the horse not being good enough. But the point I made in the article was that the thing that makes great jockeys great isn't that they're great horsemen, because so many of them are super talented horsemen. It's that they make fewer mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing I love about Townend. It's rare you see him in the wrong position. And I challenge anybody to look at that. For those 4 days, there might have been just one race where he came back in and he wasn't happy with the ride he'd given the horse because he felt he had it in the wrong position. And that's a great jockey to know that and hold his hand up and say so. So I do feel I've always been a fan, but I thought he was exemplary last week.
He was so good, but it was almost a rare mistake from him in that Champion Chase with Il Était Tombe giving us all a few heart issues on over the last. Oh my goodness. What a race though. I mean, obviously Margeborough showed the form of old. The jumping wardrobe is back. I think maybe he just needs that boggier ground. Perhaps Cheltenham isn't to be for him. It really caught him out again, didn't it? But Il Était Tombe was seriously impressive, actually, pretty much up until that last fence. But yeah, a winner for Il Était Tombe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I just thought Il Était Tombe was electric. I mean, I would wanted to tip him, but I had in my mind that very, very heavy fall at Ascot, wondering if that might have just taken the edge on him. But I should have known that Willie wouldn't be running him if he wasn't absolutely bouncing. and the way he came away from them. Any horse can jump a fence and nod on landing, pretty much as he did over that last. Again, Tarnum was excellent. But the way he's come up that hill, wow, it was a sight to behold. I think he's a real up there, uh, top class 2 mile chaser. It'll take a very good one to beat him in the near future, in the next year or so.
And one more that we'll look at on the Wednesday is the Grand Annual, because Jack, your favourite trainer this year, she finally got herself a winner on the big stage. But there's been a bit of drama around this, hasn't there? Because Charlie Deutsch is actually going to now be serving a ban during the Aintree Grand National Festival, and there's a lot of Jazzy Matty fans that feel that they are aggrieved for the race.
I mean, they can be just go back to Elete, Tom. He's probably still the most underappreciated horse in training. He's won 8 of his last 10, 7 of them are Grade 1s, and the fact he wasn't favourite going for the champion chase is easy in hindsight, right? But Martato, I'm cheating at this point. Last race, penultimate race on day 2, and I've backed like 6, 7 long shots. I looked through the form of Martato. He's got absolutely no chance. I cannot get anywhere near the frame. So obviously you look back and he was actually a pound below his last winning mark and got it by nose. Yeah, I mean the way the rules are, the rules are the rules. The horses are going to ride, a jockey's going to ride to win the race and get a ban afterwards, until he gets to the point where if you go over and your horse gets disqualified, jockeys are still going to do anything to win at all costs. If it was France, it'd have been chucked out. Or if it was Hong Kong, it'd have been chucked out. But the fact is, it's the rules in Britain, and I think Charlie will probably take a Cheltenham winner and have a few days holiday in April. If you own Jazzy Mate, and I saw a few bets going around, it was like the last leg of a nice multi. It must be really painful, but yeah, you just got to take it on the chin, unfortunately. But nice for Venetia. She's had a hard year, as my Molly can attest to. Plenty of there's been plenty of weddings which I will be able to go to the funeral thereafter. But yeah, Marta, I wasn't on, but I imagine Venetia's got a plenty of really well handicapped horses for entry now, albeit with a new jockey on board.
Yes, someone else stepping in. It'll be interesting to see who picks up some of those rides, because you've got to think she'll have a few horses coming in for Aintree. Then it means it's time to take a look ahead to Thursday. The real highlight, really, probably of Thursday was Woodhu's performance. She was so impressive in that mare's hurdle. Paul, I know you've mentioned that we really feel that actually it might have been nice to see her line up in the champion and get rid of this race that, dilutes the fields. But there was a very, I would say, a big surprise winner, and gutting for me on a personal note, with Home by the Lee winning the Stayers at 33-1. The amount of times I have backed Home by the Lee. I thought Bob Ollinger ran really, really well in third, and Ballyburn in second, to be honest. I know we were all sort of saying that we thought Ballyburn really just needs to give it up with staying, but he ran really impressively. What did you guys make of the Stayers? Paul, I'll come to you.
Well, I thought it was a really heartwarming result. It didn't warm my wallet, but the heart was warmed. Home by the Lee is just one of those horses you love. You don't expect him to win that kind of a race when he's been there 4 times before as a younger horse and failed to do it. But he just got everything right. He was given a terrific ride as well, and I thought that was a really massive credit to JJ Slevin. And I just thought that was a tremendously satisfying moment for those that love these old stages, that keep giving their all year after year and coming back and producing the goods. And it was a terrific result, even if he didn't benefit me in any way.
From a bookmaker's perspective, fantastic result.
Oh,
I couldn't have had him at all. And you look at the race after, you look at the form afterwards, going, should I have found a reason to put him up? But again, he's got good course form. He's placed there before. He'd won on his last start. But yeah, I couldn't have had him at all. But that's kind of the beauty of National Hunt racing. The interesting one from the race was Cabral de Matan, who we'd laid quite heavily. And you see Harry is sat there absolutely pulling double 2 hour. And to be fair, Paul did say this in the preview. I don't think he'll stay. I think I wrote in our group chat.
One thing right last week. That was one thing I got right last week.
And I think I wrote in our group chat straight afterwards, going, how far does he win the entry hurdle by? it was interesting that because it just shows you how it's how horses just don't get certain trips because he's come there absolutely on the bridle and he's not got up the hill over 3 miles. I thought, and the thing is, you can't really say anything about Harry Skelton. Dan said afterwards, like Harry's giving him the perfect ride. He just doesn't stay. So what we're gonna do? Like go at 2.5, or the presume there's plenty of Grade Twos. There's the Relkill hurdle at Cheltenham, obviously on New Year's Day. But yeah, one of those things where favourite backers stuck together. The interesting one was with T Uppo as well. They just kind of ran very flat. And apart from I can't pronounce that. Apart from the Mayor's Hurdle winner, Gordon Elliott had a pretty poor week overall. Penny for Gordon's thoughts this week.
Yeah.
We had the Ryanair winner
You're
was
muted, Izzy.
Hartwood,
Oh, right.
another less fancied runner, 9-2. John Bond ran his race as he always does. He's never finished outside the first two. He ended up favourite for the race at 2-1 after Factor File was pulled, and then Banbridge ran in third. He's such an enigma. Like I honestly don't know what's his best distance to run at really, other than just the King George now it seems. He is such an enigma, but the horse that I feel that we do need to take a look at before we finish looking at Thursday, Jack, is we had the winner of the Potential Supremely West. And I feel like we need to give you some credit here because you said La Vida Adiva would run well, and she did. 22-1. Did you have
Yeah,
each
I
way? Come
messaged
on.
Ruth afterwards. I did. I did back her. I messaged Ruth because she's been campaigning really, really well. Like again, I think Ruth hasn't got a lot of horses. Managed to win a listed hurdle at Doncaster's with her, placed in a Grade 2, and then has gone on to get placed at Cheltenham. Still only rated 133. She'll probably go to the Ayr Scottish National Meeting for a 3-mile handicap hurdle now. But yeah, Ruth Jefferson, we sponsored her for a couple of seasons. Does really well with the horses. I loved watching Malcolm. I thought I'd always try and follow Malcolm's horses. Again, when I'm a youngster starting out, I thought his horses would always jump well. And yeah, really well placed. But I mean, Supremely West, I don't know what to say without risk being sued. But the placement of the horse in his prior runs this season, yeah, interesting.
Is it Cheltenham Spring Horse?
Comes alive in the spring. It must be
Stand on
something
his
to do with
back.
the weather. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's joined the yard in start of the year, didn't he? 137. He's gone off 135. I imagine he's going to go up at least 7-8 pounds. And then Dan kind of says afterwards, like, yeah, that's the game. He just leaves. I mean, I couldn't have backed that horse at whatever price because it's just not my style, not my cup of tea. But for the people who are on, good luck to them. Just not for me, that.
And if we take a look ahead at Friday's card, or a look back, shall I say, to Friday's card. I'm so used to saying look ahead. We look back to Friday's card. It was an interesting kind of batch of runners. One of the most popular ones must have been Dino Blue. I think a lot of people thought that she had that race sewn up. It was a good finish though. I thought Panic Attack still ran a good race, but Dino Blue ultimately was the best on the day. I thought a really nice ride there by Mark Walsh.
Yeah, I mean, Dino Blue's another of these horses that, she's so consistent. She keeps doing it time and again at a really good level. I would also suggest, this is a race we can maybe do without, with the greatest of respect, have the mares going in, against the geldings. I'd like to see that, in the Ryanair chase or something like that. But no, she did it very, very well indeed. It was a funny old day, Friday. We started off with that 50-1 winner, a short price one for Willie in the Triumph this year, 50-1. And, the horse did it really well. There is one of his that ran in that race, though. I suggest that anybody watching this finds the video and goes and watches a horse called 40-50. A horse of Willie's that was having its first run for the yard, having just had the one start in France and had been off for an age. That one came flying up the hill, and I think that's a horse that's got probably as good a future as any horse that ran in that Triumph hurdle, 40, 50. And of course, later in the day, we had that stupendous blue ribbon race, which I'm sure Izzy will tee up for us perfectly.
Well, it's the next one I think we've got to take a look at, and it was the most hotly anticipated race on the card. It is the prestige event, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I think we all had different fancies in the race. I think so many people did. The betting, Jack, must have been quite widely spread because there was money for almost every horse. You had Django Bay, you had the money that was coming for Harry Redknapp's The Jukebox Man. You did also have money for Gaelic Warrior as well. And just a shame we had no Gallopin de Champ this year, but it did mean that Paul Townend then partnered Gaelic Warrior and won another Gold Cup. So he's got 5 Gold Cups, is it now? Is it 2 on Album Photo, 2 on Gallopin de Champ, and 1 with Gaelic Warrior? So it was Richie's first Cheltenham Gold Cup. He was emotional. But Gaelic Warrior just won that race so impressively, like for what we thought was going to be maybe a bit of a bunch finish like we had in the King George. We didn't get that. It was a procession for Gaelic Warrior, is what it felt. Jack, what
Yeah,
did you make of it?
I just want to start by saying it's just thoughts with the connections of Envoy Ellen, who's been a
Yeah.
fantastic servant for the National Hunt Game for best part of 8 years. Is it 5, 6 festivals? And he deserved better. So sorry to put a dampener on it, but yeah, just really sad to see that after the race. Fantastic performance by Gaelic Warrior. It was almost said that the Gold Cup was a hoodoo for William Williams right previously. Jack Adam was the horse that got him close, and then within a decade he's won 5 and he's equalled the great Tom Draper with winning 5 Gold Cups and with 3 different horses. And your Paul's ridden them all. So for a hot jockey that was supposed to be not being able to fill Ruby's shoes, he's done all right. It's an interesting market because I thought the Jukebox Van would get more. I thought there'd be more stronger support than they did. In the end, he ended up going a third favourite behind Gaelic Warrior and Django Bay. I thought Nicky's horse ran really well. Again, I don't think I think he clamped at a couple, which probably didn't help his cause. But when you see the way Gaelic Warrior was just caressed into the race, I thought he wouldn't stay. All he's done is stay. Shows what I know. And Paul's just he hasn't panicked. He's not gone too early. He's just waited to the last, popped him, and then let him go up the straight. Fantastic performance. Brilliant training performance by Willie Mullins. He seemed like a bit of a lunatic as a novice chaser. I think he unseated, didn't he, behind Factor File? Was it last year, the year before, the Dublin Racing Festival?
2
He
horse race.
looks, yeah, in a 2 horse race. The interesting one for me, I'd have loved to see Factor File in this race. I think he'd have run a cracker. It's one of those Willie and what when Viteur went for the Ryanair a few years ago, what a monster he was. But fantastic training performance. Take on Claire Sutton at your peril. I think they won 7 Grade Ones this year. Absolute juggernaut. And to be fair to, if you listen to Willie Mullins, one of the most self-effusive men in the game, so much like Aidan O'Brien. Nothing to do with me. The staff, they're up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. You can hear them coming in the morning. Brilliant owners, brilliant team. He's just the benchmark. He's peerless, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Fantastic.
Paul, just to speak about a couple of other runners in the race, what would you do now with Haiti Couleur? Sean Bowen, a fantastic jockey, not one single winner across the whole week. Was really disappointed when he got off Haiti Couleur, said that Haiti Couleur ran flat. Obviously, it still holds an entry for the Grand National. I think that they're probably looking that they're still going to go there. Do you think he's potentially got a good chance?
Yes, I do, especially if there's cut in the ground. I thought the ground was a bit quick for him, as it turned out. Remember, he did throw in a bad run earlier in the season, didn't he? And then he bounced back and won well. Yeah, he's a lovely horse. I mean, he's a really tremendous horse, and I think you can excuse one, a bad run. I wouldn't call it a bad run. He just wasn't good enough. I think he just didn't have the class, really. But I think in the Nationals, he would have a very big chance. Just a quick word about Gaelic Warrior. Of course, this was the only horse I tipped that won at Cheltenham last week. Unfortunately, I tipped it for the Ryan.
Oh my gosh, yes, you did. Oh,
How
I
far would
forgot
he
about
won
that.
that race by?
Well over it for the Ryanair because I wasn't sure it would stay. But yes, I knew he was a good horse, just couldn't quite find the right race for it. But no, he was absolutely brilliant. But I'd also highlight a horse here that I didn't think should have been in the race in the first place, and that's the third horse. I know the way you're thinking. Oh, I'd run like Steptoe's horse for most of this season. Your absolute cart horse, dreadful performances. And Cromwell had been saying he was coming back. He's a spring horse, he's a Cheltenham horse. But I thought, nah. And the way he ran over the first circuit, I remember that great phrase that Jerry Hannon used about one of the horses at a bad jump at one of the fences at Fairy House, where he said it's jumping like a bag of spanners, and that's the way it just wasn't picking a footer, but it's come home up the hill really well. I was very, very surprised. Absolutely justified its place back in the lineup, proving it wasn't a flash in the pan last year. So I think a great deal of credit to Gavin Cromwell, and maybe it wouldn't surprise to see him go well if he goes to Punchestown or even to Aintree, who knows. But I thought that was a really impressive effort from a horse who'd been going nowhere most of the season.
Well, hopefully you guys did better than I did in the Royal Hunt Cup, because I backed It's on the Line for the fourth time, for the fourth year in a row, and I was second on the line for the fourth year in a row. I know a lot of other people did as well, who was really well fancied, and Barton Snow was the horse that scuppered the dreams again this year. But that is all we have time for on our Cheltenham review. We will be back soon to preview some more races, especially ahead of the big Grand National meeting that we have coming up next month.